But we start with Manchester United, beaten 2-1 at Old Trafford by Sevilla. 2-1, that is, on aggregate, after a 0-0 first leg. Excellent maths there. What went wrong for them tonight at Old Trafford?
Well, to be honest, I watched the game against Palace, where I thought, it was a negative performance for me with the players they've got, and they won it in the end because they've got quality, and they had more quality than Palace, and Palace ran out of steam. I watched them against Liverpool, and I thought that the way that they played against Liverpool, if I'm Sevilla watching that, I would have been looking forward to playing them tonight, especially if you're going to let, you want Liverpool coming onto you, and that's what Liverpool done. Sevilla didn't do that, and they didn't have any answers for that today, which was, for me, at Old Trafford, when you consider, even against Liverpool, they're, 32% possession. You want them to have more possession, create more chances. They don't do it. In the end, the team frustrated them. They couldn't score, and then in the end, I think that Sevilla they deserved to win the game.
But it was effective against Liverpool. It was a similar style to the way they played against Chelsea, which was effective. So why change it for Sevilla?
I don't think that they did change it. I think it was Sevilla that was the team that changed. I thought Chelsea went at Manchester United. I think Liverpool went at Manchester United. Sevilla didn't. Sevilla, I think, were very clever. I think they said, right, OK, quieten the fans down, sit back, allow Manchester United to do all the running. If you look at Manchester United, they're blessed with great pace. Teams sit deep, you're not getting in behind them. And then I think the plan was, we were speaking about it off air, keep it 0-0, and then with 25, 30 minutes, we've got an ace up our sleeve in Ben Yedder. When the game becomes stretched...
As soon as he came on, he started stretching them the other way, and they didn't have any answers for it.
I must admit, when I saw the team sheet, when I saw the lineup, I was surprised that Juan Mata wasn't playing, because I think it was a game where there wasn't going to be any spacing behind because the opposition were going to drop deep. They're going to be fearful of the pace of Lukaku, Sanchez, Rashford.
Who would you take out, Dan?
See, that's the tough one. I think if you're looking at it and thinking, right, OK, you're going to play Sanchez, simple as that, he's a big money signing. Rashford, obviously what he did at the weekend, is going to stay in. So you're looking maybe possibly think Lingard from that.
Yeah, you see that. I totally hear what you're saying, but the way Sanchez is playing now, would you say he's playing in a way... Like, I like what Lingard's doing. He's scoring goals.
Yeah.
And the way Sanchez is playing at the moment, I think that at some stage someone's going to have to say, listen, you're not playing you're not doing as much as we want right now. So I would play Lingard, and if I was going to do anything, I'd say I'll bring Sanchez off the bench. People are going to say, well, oh my gosh, he's dropped Sanchez. Are you telling me you're only playing him because you bought him recently? You've crowbarred him in. It's not really. I'm not seeing too much impact of what he's done up to this point, Dan. So I'm thinking, why can't Mourinho leave him out then?
I think the problem that Sanchez has, he's still trying to play the Arsenal way. That's the problem. Manchester United and Arsenal, two completely different ways of playing football. And I think Sanchez is still playing that Arsenal way. And he needs to evolve and to play the way that Mourinho wants to play. But I understand completely. I think that I honestly believe that Sanchez was always going to play because the fact he is a brand new signing, and that's why. But I understand the thing with Lingard, because if you've got Lukaku, Lingard, Rashford, Sanchez in there, they're going to want to stretch the game. And if I'm playing against any of them, I'm dropping deep. So all of a sudden, that's when the gap starts to be created between the midfield and defence. That's where Juan Mata comes on, and that's where he comes into his own. Then he can ask questions. But it just seemed as though United were attack, and it was... Sevilla are all right with it because there's no one asking any questions, dropping deep and then turning and looking to play.
It's funny, Dan, because when you said, sorry, Carl, when you said about Juan Mata, and I was watching Sanchez even more, and I'm thinking, Juan Mata, he's more efficient with the ball in those areas as well, finding those passes. And I'm just thinking at some stage, when's the time going to come when he's going to say, you know what, OK, it's not quite working yet, I'm going to bring you out for a bit, bring you back in, see if that will get you going, Kels. I'm not saying I'll drop Sanchez, but I'm saying that at some stage, Mourinho, if he's that manager who's he's not bothered about dropping Pogba. I don't know if it's because he's been there longer, but I think that for the best of his team, I'm with you. I would have probably started Mata, but I wouldn't leave Lingard out.
No.
Are you surprised at the way Mourinho set up, given that he played the game, as you said on Twitter, a 0-0 draw away in Seville, perfect setup for a game at Old Trafford. He will know what to expect from Sevilla, not from having watched them and having scouted them, but from having played them in Seville. Are you surprised then that he made the tactical decisions that he made for the game at Old Trafford?
Yeah, I think so. With that in mind about Juan Mata, I was really surprised because before the game even started, everybody would have said that Sevilla are going to look to sit back and play in a counter-attack themselves. So there was never going to be any space behind. So as you look at the game against Liverpool, Lukaku, how he was at the back four, he found space, and then other runners were able to get in behind because there was space, because Liverpool wanted to be on the front foot. Sevilla were never going to come and be on the front foot. They were happy to sit back, play counter-attacking football. And if you play counter-attacking football and sit deep, pace sort of comes out of the game because there's nowhere to run into. And that's where, like I say, whether it had been Juan Mata playing in that number 10 position, because he's really the only one now that Mkhitaryan's gone that can actually play that role, which is just sitting in, getting in front of Lukaku and then picking up the ball. Then as a defender, you've got a real issue, because if Juan Mata picks the ball up, the back four might be nice and compact, but if Juan Mata starts running the ball at some point, me as a defender, I've got to go out. And if I go out then as a left back, as a centre back, whatever it may be, the back four gets disjointed. But I think the way that Manchester United played this evening, which was probably Lukaku, Rashford and Sanchez, near enough all in the same line. The back four never really got threatened as in terms of a full-back being taken out of the equation. They needed someone, I thought, in that final third that could put the foot on the ball and say, right, OK, come out to me because I can dictate the tempo of the game.
Let's widen this out into the Manchester United season and the context of it, because they've gone out of the Champions League and Jose Mourinho said in the build-up to this game, Manchester United will always be a big club, but at the moment, we're not a big team. We need to back that up. He said, we're not a big European team because 2 Champions League titles and a Europa League in the past 2 decades isn't enough for us to call ourselves a consistently big European team. In that case, did he need to make a statement in the game this evening in order to put that, or at least take the first step towards?
And I think that he's got, and I think he's got the players who are capable of doing that, playing if they could play to their full capacity. I'm not sure how Sir Alex Ferguson will feel about him saying Man United is not a big European club, because as far as I'm concerned, I believe they are. They're always in and around it. Well, back in the last few years, 10 years, they've always been in and around it, and they're a team that people are afraid of. But I think that if you are going to come out and say stuff like that, then you've got to make sure that the team you're managing can then play a brand of football that is going to challenge and get you into the latter stages of competitions like this, the main cup competition, and do well in it. But, you know, you can't say stuff like that unless you're going to have a team that's going to go forth and bring those kind of accolades that Man United should be having, for me.
It puts a lot of weight on Manchester United progressing in Europe, and of course he did deliver a European trophy in the Europa League last season. But in terms of their season and what Manchester United hope to achieve, what does going out of the Champions League at this stage do to them?
Oh, it's we'll see tomorrow in the papers.
It's awful, but
more in terms of a Manchester United supporter, because the papers can say what they want.
Well,
but it's what the supporters feel. It's the atmosphere around Old Trafford.
It feels like the game tonight is defining their season. If they'd have gone through this evening, obviously they haven't done. If they'd have gone through this season, sitting pretty in second place in the league, into the last day of the Champions League, into the last day of the FA Cup, and it's a fantastic season. It's all about progression. You know, I think that they're at a point now where I think they've scored more goals than they did in the whole last season, more wins than they did in the whole last season. I think they're only 4 points short of last season with 8 games left. So there is progression there. But I think how much it's going to be felt by everybody is the fact that I think a lot of people, myself included, I expected them to go through this evening. The performance from Manchester United was very surprising. It just seemed quite, I don't know, they never seemed to really get going. They never seemed to get up that head of steam. And it shouldn't do, but it just feels like the game tonight actually defines a season, whereas if they'd have won, I think it would have been seen as having a magnificent season. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's not been a good season. It's bizarre that one game can define it.
With all that what you said, and you have to take that all in consideration, because there is progression happening at Man United. But I think that when you look at what's happened to Man United in the past and the history, and what we're used to, and especially the teams that I played against with Man United, I think the fans are happy that something's happening, but they can't seem to grasp. It doesn't seem like they can get amongst it yet, because it doesn't. For want of a better word, Kels, it's too inconsistent. You don't know what Man United you're going to get. Look at the way they played against Palace, the way they played against Liverpool. You know what I mean? Yes, they beat those teams because at the end of the day they've got very, very good players, and you just feel like they're playing with the handbrake on. You know, because like this Man United team and the players that they've got, you see them lining up in the tunnel, you'd be frightened of those players.
But it's worked up to now, and that's the point. And maybe that's why you're suggesting, Danny, that this felt like a season-defining game, because it's taken them to second place in the Premier League table. It beat Liverpool at the weekend to go 5 points clear of them. They're still in the FA Cup, and they were trying tonight to get into the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So maybe because it's worked so far, that the patience has been there with Mourinho, and if it doesn't work, that's when the patience will.
Of course, and I think what you've got to look at, and any club, and it doesn't matter. You go back to Liverpool in the '80s. There's going to be a period when that domination comes to an end. And Manchester United, for so long, the majority of my lifetime, I've had consistent success. So when you hear people talking, and it's not just about Manchester United, it's about all different teams, when they say, oh, this isn't the way that Manchester United play, this isn't the way, over the last 15, 20 years, Manchester United have been blessed to have the players that they've had. You know, the likes of Ferdinand, the likes of Vidic, the likes of Keane, Scholes, Beckham, Giggs, Neville's. The list goes on and on and on, Cantona. Now, you can't compare to that era, because that, in my mind, was a phenomenal era. Any of them players that I just mentioned now, they would get into this team. So therefore, the team isn't as good. It's about the rebuilding process. And yes, it's disappointing that tonight they've gone out of the Champions League. There's no doubt about it. It puts a downer on the season, without question, because the Champions League is the holy grail. But I think you've got to understand that it is still, regardless of a lot of money's been spent, but it's still the progression. It's still building back up, because Manchester United for so long dominated. But like I say, all them players that I mentioned, the problem is Arsenal have had it. Liverpool had it in the 80s. Manchester City will have it at some point. They look as though they're going to dominate for a long time. All them players I've just mentioned, unfortunately, at some point, they come to the end of their careers. And when you have such unbelievable players like that, it's very difficult to replace them, or it might take a long time.
But is it about changing the squad at Manchester United, making big changes, which he's already done, Mourinho, making changes to the personnel, or is it about finding a way to gel this group of players together? Which is it? I think
you've got to gel the players together, because I think at the moment, if you look at the team on paper, nothing's won on paper. You look at that team; it's an outstanding team. Yeah. But it's bringing the best out of them. It's bringing a collective. It's working on the partnerships. It's working on, you know, the fullbacks and the wide players, the number 10 and the centre forward. But because there's been so much chopping and changing over the last 3-4 years, there's been no partnerships been able to develop. You look at the top teams throughout the years. There's been partnerships throughout the team. And you know, when Manchester United, I can't really think of a partnership that's actually, you know, blossomed over the last 3-4 years, because of the change of management, the turnover in players. And you've got to do that. Manchester City, Guardiola's doing that now. You think of David Silva, you think of De Bruyne. You know, you think of Fernandinho, you think of De Bruyne and David Silva. So there's partnerships, or 3 players playing together. They get to know each other really well, and they've gelled unbelievably quickly. And that's full credit to the players and to Guardiola. But obviously, with Manchester United, it's taking longer.
You know what, Kels? What I was going to say, when you mentioned all those players, and yes, it's very difficult to replace great players, the ones that you mentioned there in particular. But there's certain styles that, you know, that I was used to with Manchester United, like under Van Gaal and under Moyes and now under Mourinho. They've gone totally away from what I expect a Man United team to play like.
But
you're saying that.
For the rest of his career.
No. But what I'm saying is that you're going into Manchester United, and if we look at everything what Danny said about how well they're doing and it's really good, Man United fans are still not happy, because they're used to a certain way of playing. Now, I'm not saying that Rashford or Martial or Pogba or Lukaku are going to be like Cole or York or Van Nistelrooy or Giggs and Beckham, but they have got the kind of ability where they can still play in that same vein. And I think that is what... You can't tell me that Pogba can't get on a ball and spray balls like how Paul Scholes can. I'm sure he can. You're not saying he's going to go on to do what Paul Scholes did, like I'm saying with the rest of the guys, but I just believe, and I can't get over the fact that team is more than good enough to be playing a better standard of football, especially against that team and the teams that they've beaten and the teams that they've lost against. They can hammer all those teams with the players that Man United got, and that's why I feel that some of the Man United fans are so upset with them.
Do you think there's an issue for Mourinho in that when he was at Porto, it was about a small club very small club, but, you know, it was a smaller club in Champions League status that was battling its way through the competition. When he was at Real Madrid, and it was the season, we talk about him being a defensive manager, but they've got had a record number of goals in La Liga. But it was at the time of that fantastic Barcelona side that was a sort of world's favourite team at that point. Is there a sense that you can't go in as Manchester United manager and be the underdog, be the guy who's fighting to get out of it? You can't take that mantle on. But does he... And I know it's Real Madrid, and I'm making it, and in some ways but it was against that that amazing Barcelona side. So there's always someone they're trying to catch.
Yeah, there is, and you know, Manchester. It's not helping Manchester United with what Manchester City are doing. If it was Chelsea or Arsenal, a team down south.
But might it help Mourinho?
Honestly,
in the way that, if you think of the terms in which they've been successful, and with Chelsea, it was their first sustained period of success as well. It was. I don't know if there are. I still
feel that Manchester United, if they were to challenge Manchester City to win the Premier League and won the Premier League, I still think with the way that football is, the snobbery within football now, it would still not be seen as good as Manchester City's team, even if they were to win the league over Manchester City, because of the way that Pep likes to play his football, the way that he's got them on the front foot, the way that they play is unbelievable. But everybody does go on, and you can probably say this, you can associate with near enough every team when you talk about it, you know, the X, Y and Z way. You know, it's not the way that we play football. But I just feel that now football has evolved so much. I remember playing against Manchester United. Didn't know whether I was coming or going. I really didn't. They used to lull you into the false sense of security. Well, they were one of the main ones. But when you used to play against them, you were thinking to yourself after 15 minutes, oh, I'm comfortable. 25 minutes, you're 3-0 down. Yeah. And you had the wingers, whether it be Giggs, whether it be Beckham. You know, you had Gary Neville flying forward. You'd have Evra flying forward. And I just think now, the Manchester United way, from me growing up supporting them to them playing against them, it was, you would get the ball out wide, you had unbelievable centre-forward partnerships, you'd have one of the midfield runners getting into the box, and they would just be coming at you everywhere. Wingers don't exist now. Or if they do, they're very rare. Very rarely do we see an out-and-out winger going at a full-back and getting across into the box. So that has changed. But from what Wright is saying, I agree. They've got a collection of players there. And at the moment, your one worry when you look at Manchester United is that as individuals at the moment, they're fantastic. Yeah. Collectively, that's the key to it now.
That's
Exactly. That's spot on. That's what they've got.
That's what they've got, Dan. And if you put the two sides up together, both playing at their full capacity, that would be some game. Because when you look at City's team, they are so collectively on the same wavelength. You look at Man United's team, in respect of individuals, I think they're great players, just as great as City's players, but they're not a collective. They're not together collectively. And if they could put it together in the way that they're being coached, like Man City, I believe that they could be in and around Manchester City. I genuinely do, because I think
What if they swap managers?
Well, if they swap managers, I think Manchester United would be doing exactly what Manchester City are doing now, because I think that Man United have got the kind of players that Pep would be able to get a tune out of, without a doubt, because he would not play like how Mourinho plays. And you can't tell me that the players that Man United have got do not look over there glancingly, enviously, at how brilliant and how free that they're playing over there. Because you can't tell me that's not how Pogba wants to play, how Rashford wants to play, how Martial wants to play. That's how they'll all probably want to play, because they look like they're having fun doing it as well.
I think Manchester City, more often than not, they carry on regardless. Whoever they're playing, they're like, we don't care. Yeah. We're going to do it. We could probably name, if everybody's fit, we could name the front six or the three midfielders in the front three. Fernandinho, De Bruyne, David Silva, Sterling, Sané, and Aguero. Obviously, Jesus is in at the moment. So that creates an understanding. You know straight away Fernandinho is going to be sitting. You know that De Bruyne and David Silva are going to be able to go. You know that Sterling and Sané will keep their width a lot of the time. So they create the space in between the opposition full-backs and centre-halves. But with Manchester United, like you say, we were waiting for the lineups to come in today. Didn't know what the lineup was going to be. Whereas if you look at your top teams, look when Chelsea won the Premier League last season, we could probably name the team 3 or 4 days before the game. With Manchester United at the moment, because there's probably lack of consistency with the individuals within that team, the centre-back partnership is changing. Your midfield partnership is changing. Your wide players are consistently changing. So there's no consistency. So in order to get that understanding, you have to have that consistency within 11 players.
Do we also need to take a bit of perspective on this as well? Because if Manchester United had won this game, we'd have been talking about, as you said, them having 100%. A very good season. We'd have been saying, look at them, they're in second place behind this phenomenal Manchester City side and a clear second as things stand. Mourinho playing young players, bringing through the likes of McTominay, giving Rashford...
Yeah, but is he doing that to make a point? Is he doing it to make a point with McTominay?
But you know, we would, if they'd gone through, have been pointing out all these positives. They progressed in the Champions League. You know, the problems with Pogba, where they were hugging in the interview afterwards. It looks like maybe they're on the back burner. We'd have concentrated on all those positives.
100%.
And now we're not.
But the thing is, like you say, if we go back, and this show was 24 hours ago, that's what we're talking on. You know, we've got the notes that prepared before the game, and it's all positive. what I'm saying is that it feels like a defining moment because so many people thought, right, they're going to get past Sevilla and then we'll see what happens. There's no doubt about it. I look at any club, obviously if you're at the top of the league, it's a little bit different. Manchester City, how do they progress from what they're doing this year? Because it's incredible. But Manchester United, year on year now, obviously Mourinho's second year, there's progression. And as a team, as a supporter, that's what you want to see. You want to see progression. I think the frustration for Manchester United fans will be, they look at that team and think there's so much more there. And I think that's probably the frustration. But as in terms of what Mourinho's doing at the football club, the way that they are progressing from last season, yes, you've got to say they're progressing on all ends. It's just really disappointing, the result this evening, because it does feel like a defining moment of the season,
You know what, Kels, and then you mentioned as well, you go through, like bringing them through, and like McTominay, and I mentioned about what kind of point is he making. Why didn't McTominay start today? And he started Fellaini instead of McTominay or Pogba, and in the end he took him off. You think to yourself, well, why not start McTominay in a game like this then? What did Fellaini do that McTominay couldn't do, that we've seen him get into the team and break into the... I'm surely this is the game that McTominay wants to be playing and saying, right, he's really playing me instead of them two. That's what gives you even more of a boost and elevates your confidence to a new height. And he didn't play him, and you think to yourself, well, what's going on with the McTominay and Pogba?
Maybe you wanted a more experienced player in a bigger game.
But at the same time, you know, I feel that he's somebody that's blasted onto the scene against the Sevilla side that he probably would have thought to himself, yeah, I can deal with it. It doesn't play him. And then it makes me start to think again, well, what are you playing at? Why didn't you play him or play Pogba? You know, and then have the confidence in the manager that you are to say, you know what, I'm going to leave you out, Sanchez. I'm going to play Mata because I think it'll be better for us, because we're going to need somebody who's not going to give the ball away so much in positions where hopefully you get Lukaku to start there, hold it, we're going to come and link you, and we'll go from there. It didn't seem like there was the plan. I didn't know what the plan was tonight.
But can this season be the platform? And is this the last time Manchester United can have a season that's a platform for future success, do you think?
Yeah, I think so, because...
Look, they won trophies last season.
Exactly, they won trophies last season. The way that they're going at the moment, they are in position to finish second. You know, they could go all the way in the FA Cup, then they get Champions League football next season as well. So there's that progression in there. I think just because everybody looked at the Champions League, the way that Mourinho plays as well, we know that over two legs you'd fancy him.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the frustrating thing, because I was looking at the game tonight, I thought to myself, I tell you what, if you get through this, which I thought they would have done, you know, Sevilla, all respect, I think they're a fantastic team, but I thought Manchester United at home, the way they've been playing recently, their home record, having only lost one game at home all season, I thought it was there for Manchester United. And then to progress then, and I'm not saying you'd fancy against anybody, but they'd have a good chance against anybody over two legs. And I think that's a frustrating thing where Manchester United fans will probably be deflated now, because I think everything had built up, yes, beating Chelsea, beating Liverpool, in second place in the league. Things are starting to go up in the FA Cup, you know, in the last 8 of that. This will be the icing on the cake, so to speak, for this month to get into the next round of the Champions League. And then it just feels as though, I think, deflation afterwards, because this is the biggest competition, because Manchester City have won the Premier League, and it's the biggest competition that Manchester United feel that, yes, progression, we've got a good opportunity to do that. And because they haven't, like I say, they'll be absolutely gutted after the game because of what could have been.